our first battle here in Pennsylvania. Jonathan Castro will lead that Judo Mental Dom. 86, and Chelsea Denofa gets the side, but look at that, Castro does not back down. No big deal for Castro. Does drop down a little bit there, but you got to think, was that caused by Denofa? Now going to that second outside zone. Castro drops that back left tire, no problem for him, into that third outside zone, and riding into the multiple white stripe lines, and all the way through that final outside zone. A great way to start it. You know what? Shots fired across the nose. Look at that battle damage on the left-hand side, Ryan.
I know some of the drivers were complaining about the lack of practice, but it certainly did not show in that battle there.
No.
And Chelsea Denofa is always on one, but right now Jonathan Castro is as well. Denofa surges forward at that decel zone right before there's just a little blip there on that map, but you could see Denofa is trying to chase him down, but Castro is holding him off and really doing a great job in this second outside zone. Good transition back around right before we get smoked out. You can see he drops a little tire going far into that zone on the right hand, the right rear wheel there, and Denofa getting up tight there towards the end. So a really fast battle, almost hard to call it in real time how fast it is.
Yeah, Ryan.
But a great way to start things off.
Well, that's my job. That's your job to kind of wrap out on the instant replay. But yeah, I would definitely agree. It just happens just like that. The question I'm wondering is, how will the judges
the hit?
Yeah, the hit. Did that affect Castro's line? Did that push him down? Was he set up? Did that hurt him? Did it help him? Obviously, it hurt Castro and even the perception, even though he might have been on that line. Chelsea with that contact, that could hurt Chelsea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you pretty much hit on all the potential topics, right? He did hit him, so it's a negative.
Yeah.
But did it have an impact, right? And he did come off that zone a little bit low, so did it push him in an area where he wouldn't have been had Chelsea not hit him, right? And so for the judges, that's going to be some of the things that they're going to think about. And it won't matter until we get done with the second run because everything is a comparative battle.
All right. Well, hopefully on just those short runs, not only for the drivers, but also the spotters. The spotters taking notes on how they drove in the wet compared to the dry today. Chelsea Denofa throws it up against the wall. Not literally, as he does keep it high, but he does keep it physically off the wall. Now dropping into that second outside zone. A lot of smoke. Castro jumps in on the inside. Now he travels back. He pulls that rear end of that 86. Oh, and Castro spins out. That is definitely going to hurt him as Chelsea Denofa brings it through. He does punch that cone out of the way, but the judges talked about that. It's all pending on where your tire is, not if you hit the cone, because there's a variance of distance from that back tire to that back bumper. You look at 86 compared to Mustang. They got different units of measure, so it's all about tire placement on the edge of the track.
Well, Castro, I have to say, was looking phenomenal, but you can tell how much on the edge the drivers are driving right now, so to speak. Castro really got in the pocket in initiation. He fell back a little, and we know how fast Denofa is. Great transition there by Castro, but as he gets bounded up here and he's not able to make that transition with Denofa, he's in the chase position, so obviously he needs to try and get as close as he can without messing up and making a mistake. We'll take a look at it from the drone, but it just looks like he was not able to hold that angle and momentum into that third and final outside zone. Now the drone is a really big friend of the series because it does give us some great insight to angle of the vehicle, location. You can see Castro's way on inside two there, and then right here just looks really unorthodox there on the transition. Almost not even sure why that happened. Didn't seem like it was going to happen, but it did. It was in the chase. Looks like an unforced error there for Jonathan Castro.
All right, the fortune teller, the truth serum, whatever you want to call it, the eye in the sky, really breaking down. You can see, yeah, Ryan, I would definitely agree. It didn't seem that Chelsea Denofa slowed down where it would have caused Castro to spin out. I think his suspension was potentially, bound up and came unwound and spins out. So let's go to our judges. Slide them left or right, depending on which direction. Slide them left for Castro, right for Denofa. 1 vote for Denofa. 2 votes for Denofa. Denofa will be going against LZ in the top 16. Also at 6:15 local time here in the pits, the Fun Haver Party. Von getting in the wet, and then he had not the best run, but here he is. He is in top 32 competition. Jeff Jones initiates. It's the battle of the red vehicles here. Jeff Jones initiates. Travis Reeder right there. Does fall down quite a bit, but it's all about where you have that drifting line. Looks like a little hang up there. That is a decel area, basically a momentum area as they come into that final outside zone. right on that white line. So again, where those multiple lines exist, as Travis Reeder does exceed that. So again, where those multiple white lines are, that would be considered off course. But you can hit those cones by your back bumper. Let's take a look at it again here.
Yeah, it's a good, oh wow, look at this. So Matt Field, getting a quick look at Matt Field before we get to the replay. Looks like they are still working on the vehicle. He's still a couple battles away.
Yep.
And it does seem like they're thinking that it's salvageable there. But let's take a look at Travis Reeder and Jeff Jones. And I think you brought up some good points about some of the specifics of what the judges are looking for in terms of what is counted as off course versus not. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we see some examples. You can see right there, Travis Reeder had a good defensive posture there coming down off of outside zone 1. He got held up for a little bit. Jones starts to go a little bit long on this outside zone. Right there, you can see he drops that right rear tire. But overall, pretty decent run by both drivers. Lots of different elements between each driver. We had a good close tandem there, and that's kind of what we want to see. As we take a look at run number 1, the judges will deposit that into the memory bank. They'll go and look at replays if they need to, and then after the second run, it's basically looking at both lead runs and both chase runs and figuring out who did a better job overall.
There's just a little information that they're gathering with every turn and burn. Travis Reeder initiates. You can see some wobbling from both of the vehicles. The attitude of the vehicles, not exactly lock, stock, ready to rock. Now dropping into that second outside zone. Like I said, that momentum zone, just gliding right in that second outside zone. Jeff Jones going way shallow, goes on the inside. Looks like Travis Reeder does go beyond that track course edge, but then both of them getting settled towards the latter portion of that final outside zone. Yeah, Ryan, this is quickly. I mean, this is just expediting this course. You can see the cabin absolutely filled with GT Radial smoke there as we look at Travis Reeder and his Link Engine Management BMW.
Yeah, what's really important to look at when we're looking whether or not a driver has exceeded the edge of the course where there's not a wall is where their tires are. And if they've gone off course with their tires past those painted lines, that's considered off course. If they just hit one of these little course markers with their bumper, that's not a big deal. They're just the judges are looking at those rear wheels. So right there, that's an example of going off course by Travis Reeder. And as Jeff Jones chases him down, what he's looking to do is follow him like a moving clipping point while maintaining equivalent angle and keeping that proximity on, trying to stay on his line as best that he can. Now, from above, the drone will give us a really great insight. We saw a little shimmy there from Reeder on his lead run. Jones trying not to get lost in the smoke here, but he's going to come up a little bit late and fall back for a second. Now as we transition here, you're going to see Reeder go a little bit wide. Jones tries to tuck in on the right line. He has a little bit less angle, and then right there he falls off course as he tries to follow Reeder into that final outside zone.
Yeah, I love that drone shot because that is just really the truth serum. Jeff Jones in that chase position seemed like, you know, just a little frazzled, and rightfully so. This is just a quick course, and that's what keeps coming to, you know, to a glaring point here. And you saw him come in like taking the tighter line, going from outside zone 2 to outside zone 3. And then, like you said, Reeder going beyond. This is an interesting battle here, but this is the first one where I don't envy being a judge because you're not splitting hairs. You are seeing glaring mistakes by both drivers, but which outweighs the other. And I always love the BC Racing side-by-side instant replay. BC Racing, the official suspension of Formula Drift, go for gold.
Yeah, and when we start seeing these side-by-side replays, if you're new to the sport, and I know that there are a ton of new fans that we've been able to pick up and are excited about the sport, this basically means that the judges are really wanting to see both runs side by side, obviously, but the reason why they're doing it is to try to see if they can find something in the criteria that one driver did better than another, or that there was a significant enough mistake in an important part of the course or during the battle that points the needle in either driver A's direction or driver B's. And as we wait the results, we are seeing some more footage here coming in from Matt Field's pit. Does look like they're getting the vehicle set back up again. We got those front wheels on, and we do have a result here.
Here we go, one more time from one of the American judges, and there it is, an OMT. So this will be a one more time, and I absolutely agree with that. Tighten it up, don't leave it in the judge's hands. What are your thoughts?
Especially in New Jersey. I expect this to be a good competitive battle, but also because this is the first time we're seeing dry since Friday, it's hard to say exactly what will happen.
Here we go, because Taguchi initiates a lot higher there than Simon Olsen. as he maintains the height. And Simon Olsen now drops in to that second outside zone. Quite a distance back. He really gripped up on that transition, that flick into the second outside zone. Now approaching that third outside zone. Simon Olsen getting lost in the smoke. Taguchi shredded that bumper skin as he brings it all the way through. Very consistent. Simon Olsen not part of the equation. And I'm looking at this, and it looks like they're yellow and black zebras. Kazuya Taguchi, a yellow with black stripes, and then Simon Olsen black with yellow stripes.
Yeah, well, the zebra in the chase made a pretty significant mistake that I think we'll get a better look at it on replay. And it may have, if you weren't watching closely what was going on with Simon Olsen, coming down off of outside zone 1, he had what looked to be a very critical error that may be what we call an incomplete. And that's equivalent to a 0 in the older style of drifting. Watch from above here. Simon Olsen, he's going to be on that tighter line. He's going to angle up right there and shut it down and almost have to reinitiate. I've seen those kinds of mistakes, especially in the chase position, when you're not in proximity, be called an incomplete. So I would not be surprised there if that is the case. I am getting a thumbs up from one of the judges. So that means that Simon Olsen is at a big deficit here. He did pull up to the line, so it looks like the car is functioning at least up to his liking. Yeah. And it looks like Taguchi as well is getting ready to line up for run number 2. So he will have to really pull out all the stops in hopes that Taguchi makes an equal mistake.
The interesting thing here is I would think Simon Olsen has a bit of advantage being a rookie because this is a rookie track, you know, this being a new track. So the equalizer here is the track, but Kazuya Taguchi, brand new vehicle. Simon Olsen, new vehicle, new driver. How familiar is he with his vehicle? We'll find out. Again, you don't want to be the last zebra, as they say. When lions are chasing you down, don't be the last zebra. We're talking about ponies here. We're talking about horsepower. We're talking about Lake Erie Speedway, round 4 of the Formula Drift Pro Championship. Hashtag FD Erie. As Simon Olsen will now lead, and Kazuya Taguchi, up garage, ISR, GT Radial, 86, will give him chase. All right, blending into those cones there, both the vehicles. Now let's initiate that first outside zone. Kazuya Taguchi does need to have an active chase. And Simon Olsen, like you said, he's doing exactly what he needs to do. Really pushes forward, tries to drag that bumper on the wall, and that second outside zone really exceeds the exit line. You can't hit the cones, but he went tires off. That's what really counts when it comes to the judges. Let's take a look at that, Ryan, and walk us through on the instant replay as Simon Olsen and Kazuya Taguchi bring it across the finish line.
This is a comparative battle, looking at both runs in both positions from either driver or from both drivers. But one of the things that we learned yesterday in qualifying, Jared, is that outside zone 2 was a very important area for the judges, and they gave it double points on both line and angle. Now, I think we know here that Taguchi feels like he's at an advantage. He's giving a little bit of room here. Olsen is pushing hard. He pushes a little bit too hard here. He drops 2, almost 3 tires off of the furthest part of that zone, and that's a definite no-no there. So he is doing his best to try and have Taguchi force an error on himself, but you can see that Taguchi does not have an incomplete, and this should be an easy result here for Kazuya Taguchi.
And here we go, slide him left for Taguchi, right for Simon Olsen, and Kazuya Taguchi, the up garage 86, gets the win. Unfortunately, Simon Olsen knocked out. And I'm going to bring up something also, Ryan, I want you to elaborate.
22 minutes?
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, the parts boards definitely come into play. They'll have actually parts set up on a board right front corner. Speaking of right front corner, here's our first left-hand turn as we go to that first outside zone. Dean Kearney definitely high on that outside zone. Now coming to that second outside zone. Let's see how they attack this. Looks like, again, that momentum zone taking right to that second outside zone. Ryan Tuerck kind of pedaling back. Look at that snap by Dean Kearney. Oh, that could be interesting right there, Ryan, as far as, let's take a look at this. I want to slow this down before I say anything here, but I like...
You don't want to overcommit?
Yeah, I don't want to overcommit like somebody might have, but on that first outside zone, walk us through.
Yeah, before we get to that, because I think you're right, that is going to be a point of contention for the judges. Tuerck is playing a little bit of catch-up here. Now watch, he's going to start to fall down the bank a little bit, not follow Dean. He's trying to find his grounding here and figure out how to chase Dean through this really tight section of the course. Now Dean does drop a little bit of a tire there, but it wasn't too far off. But right there, he makes a really quick snap, and then he doesn't fill the beginning of outside zone 3. It did seem to have an impact on Tuerck in the chase position. Now remember what we talked about at the beginning of the show about the lead driver responsibilities. And Tuerck is in an attacking position. He's expecting Dean to go into that outside zone. Dean puts a big transition on it into that outside zone, but doesn't get anywhere near close. And then how much of an impact did that have on Tuerck? where you had that gap established and both drivers were separated through the finish line.
It's not clear cut if that, I'll bring up the phrase, and you said it on the front end of the show, unchaseable lead run. We'll assess that, we'll dissect it, and again, it's going to lean on the judges. Ryan Tuerck will lead the come out Toyota Racing Toyota Corolla hatchback. The Oracle Lighting Dodge Viper is going for it, and it seems like they're now tit for tat here. You can see Ryan Tuerck, looks like he's hitting all the right spaces and all the right lines. As Dean Kearney now digs into that second outside zone, Ryan Tuerck flicks into that last outside zone. Looks like he does exceed. That is that back right tire. Doesn't look like, well, looks like he's flirting with it though. If that was dirt or if that was a wall, he'd definitely be heavy into it. But, you know, again, just depending on where you put the tire, not so much the bumper. Are you tired yet? Dude, I mean, we got like 4 battles in right now. I think
well, there's a lot of heavy lifting going on here. These guys are definitely putting on an incredible show, and there's a lot to look at very quickly. Now, this time, Dean gets a little bit of kind of a lazy initiation. You can see the car moving around. He's not within proximity, and Tuerck is kind of taking advantage of his opportunity in the lead. He does exceed the second outside zone a little bit by his right rear, or the left rear, and then the right rear here is kind of on that second and third line, which is considered off course. Now, one tire off course is not a massive deal, and we have to look at the entire context of the result of both runs. I do think that the judges are going to pay a little bit of attention to how much of an impact the third outside zone had with Dean in the lead. So I think the general consensus so far is that everybody is maybe over driving the course a little bit. We're seeing drivers exceed areas, and that just may be a setup situation, right? Coming from the wet, you know, the limited time in practice because of Ryan Tuerck crashing into the wall and everybody limited to 1 or 2 laps. So drivers may just still be getting a little bit settled here, Jared.
They got a lot of side grip. They are ripping through the course very fast. I mean, you can hear us, you know, sounding like auctioneers here, but who's getting the best deal? Ryan Tuerck does come out on top. Ryan Tuerck, it looks like 2-1 as one of the American judges.
Chris and I both agree.
All right, here we go. Jeff Jones, Travis Reeder, thank you, Ryan Lontaine. And here we go. We are seeing Jeff Jones for this one more time battle. Travis Reeder initiating into that first outside zone. Jeff Jones just slightly higher than Travis Reeder, and now coming down into that second outside zone. There goes Jeff Jones. You can see that momentum area kind of lift. That did allow Travis Reeder to kind of pedal back and get that proximity. Now to that final outside zone, Jeff Jones hammering down into that final outside zone, punting way off course goes Jeff Jones towards the latter portion of that final outside zone.
Noticeably, minus that last little section, which was a very small part, both drivers seemed much more settled that run. Especially, I love the way that Reeder approached his initiation, getting into the pocket with Jeff Jones. And Jones, as a leader, for the most part, really didn't have any obvious mistakes. And he had some points where he drove really well. Look at this nice little snap into initiation. Reeder gets right there on the rear wheels. He goes down a little bit. He's on a slightly tighter line here, but he's trying to maintain that similar angle. And then coming through that middle line, which is what the judges want to see, Jones does a pretty good job. He gets into the zone a little bit late, but he fills it in a deeper part of the zone. The third outside zone, he drops 2 tires off course for probably about 60 feet, but for the most part, that was much more cleaned up by both drivers on this one more time battle. So let's switch things up as Jeff Jones will now chase down Travis Reeder.
All right, let's see how they put it down here. Again, dragging a lot of speed from that outside zone 1 and hanging out in outside zone 2 for quite a while. Let's see how it manifests. Travis Reeder initiating in that first outside zone. Jeff Jones does get close, has to back off quite a bit. Now they're ripping in. Let's see how they handle it. So now coming down into outside zone 2, you can see that smoke line, that momentum area now coming back into outside zone 3. We got to pick up the speed and really hang it out to dry. Speaking of dry, absolutely plumes of smoke coming off of Reeder and Jeff Jones' ride. The second half of this one more time battle. Ryan, is the needle going either way for you?
Well, both drivers here proving to be pretty phenomenal on this one more time battle. Let's take a look here with Reeder in the lead. Coming down, drops down into initiation, and Jones already doesn't want to let him get away, making a nice move there, trying to keep that angle as similar or greater than Travis Reeder. Loves how he tucks in there, does not get lost in the smoke line, but look at Reeder, enters that outside zone, filling it completely while Jones leaves it a little bit early. He also doesn't get as deep as Reeder does until that section, but then he falls off a little bit. So this is another one of those kind of tit-for-tat battles. I like the way Reeder approached his lead run here, treated it like a qualifying run, and let Jeff Jones try and chase him down. And there is some comfort, I think, for some drivers to have that lead run and really think about a qualifying performance, not worrying about what the chase driver is doing.
Yeah, it gets really interesting here. Just as quick as, again, you got to think about it. They're coming in blazing. They want to be as high as possible. Here's the BC Racing side-by-side graphic, the official suspension of Formula Drift. Go for gold, and that's what they're going for, just advancing on in 16. So they're coming in really hot here. So Reeder, you know, comes really high. Let's see where they leave the outside zone. They're going middle line here. Now they have to balance, and they scrub a lot of speed. Look at the smoke signal. You know, that is that momentum area, but in order to go from a very fast section into that slow section, you're really going to have to lift and take that middle line. So that's where I think a lot of the drivers are getting disrupted and managing both lead and chase. You know, if you're the lead car and you're doing this as a qualifying, we had dry conditions, you know, you might be a little more fluid coming off of that outside zone 1 into outside zone 2, but it gets interesting, you know, in the chase positioning. It gets hairy. It gets really hairy.
Compromises, mistakes, areas on the course where you just perform phenomenally relative to your other competitor. That's all the things that the judges are putting into the hopper. We've already seen this go one more time once. It's close again. Let's go to the scorecard.
Slide him left for Jones, right for Reeder, and it looks like Chris Yule goes with Travis Reeder. And Travis Reeder gets the win. Reeder does get the victory as he will advance on after that one more time. Steve Eno's oil run through the veins. Here we go. Matt Field throws it in. Yoshihara looks like he was going to attack. Looks like he pedaled it back. And Matt Field, a little bit of wavering there, hangs on the wall for a very, very long time. And it works out for him. Into that second outside zone goes Matt Field and Yoshihara. Now transition that last outside zone. Matt Field rides it right on the edge. In the transition, looks like Dye did lose some ground, but still maintained the proximity from the distance of that transition. So a little bit of like, whoa, all right, I'm gonna let you do your thing, and then I'm just gonna tuck back here. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Well, two things. You know, Matt Field in the lead, open air in front of him. Looks like he makes a little bit of a mistake on the bank. Front end kind of washed out a little bit. And then as you mentioned, he took a wide line leaving outside zone 1, and the judges kind of want to see a midline there, and I think that that had an impact. Here's the first little mistake there. You see the front wheels? They go to 0 degrees for a very short period of time, and that pushes them a bit wide. That may have sped up the car. He comes off the zone a little bit late. Now, Dye in the chase overall, not doing a terrible job here. He had a moment there where he was surging forward on the bank, and right now he's closing the door. Matt Field looks like he's trying to find his grounding. He may be a little bit like an injured gazelle here, and Daijiro Yoshihara has an opportunity to kind of take him out, because perhaps even after doing the tow and everything else, the car is not 100%.
Yeah, you have to think that he's, you know, what's going through his mind, but this is where you entrust. You know, this is sometimes where the racers shouldn't work on the vehicle, because you kind of question what exactly, you know, they've done. No, everything's good, just thumbs up, let's go ahead and send it. So, you know, what's going through Matt Field's mind, what's going through Yoshihara's mind, but we'll find out. Is somebody going to come out on top in this scenario, in this duo, in this battle? Yoshihara, Matt Field, going to that first outside zone. Yoshihara shreds that wing. We don't need no stinking wing, keeps it going as Matt Field looks like he backs off. Might have got a little gun shy there as they transition that second outside zone. Now bringing it through into that last outside zone is Matt Field. Is he a little hurt? You talked about the analogy of a gazelle. Let's take a look here, Ryan, as Matt Field, who might be limping across the line. Let's take a look. Ryan, let's slow it down.
Well, this was a big opportunity for Daijiro Yoshihara to potentially pounce on an opportunity here with Matt Field's car potentially not being at 100%. But in the lead, he makes a mistake of his own here and gets in touch with that wall. Look at the initiation. He starts floating up. Back bumper hits, angles up, loses drift for a second, has to reinitiate. Now, in the chase position, Matt Field has to be really careful here because he doesn't want to crash into Daijiro Yoshihara. So the judges are going to give some allowance for that. However, you can see Field still struggling, though, once they kind of get recentered here. Really low angle there through the finish line. I'm almost wondering if it's possible that both drivers incompleted in their leads.
Well, Matt did hit, but let's take a look at this again. So when Dye, not only does he lose his wing, but he also loses his bump. The wing is substantial. That's like fiberglass.
Yeah.
The bumper, the skin, yeah, it's plastic material, a little more pliable, but it looked like it went underneath Matt Field's car. Watch the attitude. Matt goes for it. They both go for the wall tap, but watch the attitude of Matt's car on the instant replay. I was looking at that because that might have hurt his back right corner. Maybe suspension, maybe got stuck, because you know, let's take a look at this again here, the BC Racing side-by-side graphic. Take note of Matt's vehicle on the right-hand side where he's in the chase position. Tap, both of them tap.
He may have driven over it.
Yeah, and that's what caused them to shoot down. So once you start getting offline, that's going to throw you off the entirety of the run, right? I mean, to try to, you know, and they don't want you to reinitiate. They don't want you to double drift. So I liked what you said. How much is the judges taking into consideration of that impact, both of, you know, Dye hitting the wall in front of him and him hitting the wall and maybe running over some debris?
Yeah, I mean,
look at that.
I think
like that back right.
I think the mistake is pretty clear from Dye, right? And the consequences of that, whether or not it had an impact on Matt, it certainly had an impact on the pace on the outside zone. Now, you could say that if the car is damaged, that some of the mistakes that Matt made on outside zone 3 can be allotted for.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if it's a possibility that both drivers have an incomplete in their lead, because we saw Matt go to 0 degrees for a short period of time in his lead. And potentially that's a big enough mistake to be an incomplete for Dye in his lead. Now, if that's the case, that's going to be an automatic one more time. If there's not an incomplete for either driver, then it would just go to the other driver. But this is going to be one of those ones that I definitely want to hear from the judges on how they are thinking about this battle overall, because that was definitely crazy.
And here we go. Slide up left for Matt Field, right for Yoshihara. And look at this. It automatically just slides left for Matt Field. And as we go down, Ryan Lontaine, what do you guys think? Outcome, congratulations. Matt Field does continue on. Right now, Dylan Hughes, Kenshiro Gushi. Dylan Hughes, oh boy. And Ken Gushi, Ryan, just another scenario. No. As Dylan Hughes continues through the course, Ken Gushi, I just have to imagine frustration is filling that cockpit as Dylan Hughes, that Permatex Fast Orange Rain-X BMW crosses the finish line. The contact on that side, Ryan, I'm
Flabbergasted?
I have a lot of sympathy and empathy for Ken Gushi, man. Just you know, just a veteran of the sport. Just another problematic run.
Well, see right here, I think he doesn't even really initiate by the last standing point where you can initiate as the chase driver. So I think that's going to really go against him. It doesn't help that he hits Hughes right here coming off of outside zone 1. So in the chase run, it could potentially be an incomplete for Ken Gushi. Now, what that would mean technically is that Hughes is still going to have a judged lead run, but it does put Ken Gushi at a very, very big disadvantage going into the second part of this run.
The other thing that I'm thinking is, okay, you know, Spotter, who's Dylan's dad, hey, Ken Gushi didn't initiate properly and he hit you. If you're chasing that down, you don't want to risk it and potentially go into the wall, get contact, and write yourself off.
Yeah, I mean, thematically, we've seen a lot of mechanical issues. Some of them 60-cent parts, like we talked about last night from Ken Gushi. So I know, but I'm saying Dylan chasing that down. How much do you trust Ken Gushi leading aggressively? So how much does Dylan dial it up? Does he go to? I mean, because we want an active chase. We talked about inactive chases. The scenario here is how much trust. Hey, trust fall, bro. Catch me. How much trust you fall? That's what I was trying to get to. Is because we have a history of Ken having these issues this year mechanically, it is hard to have a lot of confidence in this chase run going up against him.
And I feel, I mean, right? I mean, you feel for Ken Gushi. We've seen the young man grow up.
Absolutely. I mean, look, he is a veteran of the sport. When you have mechanicals and you can't go out there, I mean, it's the same thing that's been going on with Chris this year.
Yeah.
Right? It's just frustrating for the team and for everybody.
All right, regardless, you know Ken Gushi wants to put on a show, and he could step up, and right now he is rising to the occasion. So Dylan Hughes really does need to apply that pressure, but he does have the advantage, as you said, Ryan. Now going to that second outside zone, Dylan Hughes doesn't get all the way out there, but like I said, he might be a little timid here as he knows what just transpired. If he keeps it where the rubber meets the road, it looks like Dylan Hughes will be getting the victory and advancing on 16. and that does look like it will be the case, unfortunately, for Ken Gushi, that Toyota Racing Credit Toyota GR Supra. But the Permatex Royal, yep, that fast orange vehicle there, the Royal Purple Rain-X vehicle, will advance on 16.
Well, this is more what we want to see from the lead driver. Aggressive initiation, back on throttle early, getting deep into that outside zone. It's not perfect, but this is much more of what we want to see, what the judges want to see. However, I believe that everything kind of hangs on that first run. And what we would need to see here from Dylan in the chase position is a similar or worse mistake than what Ken had in his lead, in his chase run, and yep. I'm not sure that we're going to get that.
Unfortunate again there for Kenshiro Gushi. We'll be getting some words with Dylan Hughes right before 32 ends, talking about his new project, the Permatex Flat Out 200. He's going to get a 200-mile-per-hour run on a Kawasaki Ninja ZH2 at the Salt Flats the day after the St. Louis event, and let's make it official. Dylan Hughes, he's flat out going to the 16. So again, we'll have some words with him, talking about his new project, four wheels, not two. Reynolds will lead, Nerren will give chase. As they make their way through the start chicane, let's see what Reynolds got for Nerren. Already a gap being created, but Reynolds keeps it high. You can see that. Nerren, some wavering, and middle of the line. Middle of the bank. Reynolds taking that wide line. Nerren has to check up down to the second outside zone. Both these guys a little sloppy coming into that final outside zone. Let's see if they can tighten it up. As Nerren, I believe, doesn't get all the way out. Going to take a different perspective with that. You can see that smoke signal getting in the way, Ryan.
Well, as you mentioned, the combo of Reynolds and Yves Meyer, the twin vehicles, really stepping up their qualifying game as Reynolds takes a lead here against Nerren. Let's see how he can do head-to-head. Gets pretty high on the bank. You see a little bit of wavering there, but notice that Nerren is down further on the bank. As Reynolds pushes out, he goes mid-wide there. Judges kind of want to see a little bit more mid. He does drop a tire there, but he does not hit any of those pylons. He kind of got into the middle section of outside zone 3, just in the perfect spot. And right here through that final outside zone, as Nerren is clawing through to try to get to him in that smoke line. He does a pretty good job there to finish things up. Here it is on the bank. You can see just rubbing the wall for a second there, trying to not overcommit to that section. That's probably why you saw a little bit of that wavering there as he was trying to get settled. But now we will switch things up as Jonathan Nerren will now take the lead.
Here is Nerren getting the fresh, clean air out front. Not so fresh, still some smoke in the sky, but the wind is whipping, so it's nice how it's clearing it out. All right, Nerren, Manji entry in front of Reynolds. Nerren looking a lot more comfortable out front. Don't even see the back half of that car. Turns on the smoke machine. Middle line, that's where you properly want to go, as Nerren looking a lot more comfortable out front. Now come in and transition to that final outside zone. Reynolds, you see, makes a quick correction there. Ryan, lead versus lead, chase versus chase. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Reynolds out front, you know, just overhearing and seeing what we talked about on that initiation is kind of some wonkiness to it, and that's a hard act to follow. Nerren, a lot more comfortable out front. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely looked like Nerren, took advantage of the lead position here. Not afraid to kind of drop down. He obviously has the right of initiation there. See how settled he is up on the bank. Now he's kind of mid-line on the bank, but you can see that gap is established, and that should have been an area where we wanted to see Reynolds attack. Now right here on outside zone, he just gets to the front of the line, which is pretty good, and Reynolds falls back, and then you can see that loss of angle there for a second, and he's kind of struggling here on this final outside zone to not only keep pace with Nerren, but also kind of stay stable and lock into the right amount of angle, even if he can't get proximity.
Slide him left for Reynolds, right for Jonathan Nerren. It looks like Jonathan Nerren will get the victory. Unfortunately for Josh Reynolds, he is. So here we go. Brandon Sorensen, Rome Charpentier, the garage stick, E36. Here we go. Brandon Sorensen initiating into the bank. Great angle there for Brandon Sorensen. You can see him dabbling with the edge of that outside zone. Look at Rome Charpentier going hard as Brandon shuts her down. So was there an issue? I mean, the contact. This is, Ryan, we haven't talked about this in quite some time. Elaborate on contact, because there's degrees of contact and implications.
Yeah, the formula drift judging regulations definition of contact just means that the cars touch each other, but the battle continues. If the cars touch each other and the battle stops, that means collision. Now, the difference in terms of the protocol there is that once it's a collision, somebody has to be deemed at fault. Now, let's take a look at this right here. Now, the decel zones that we showed up on the screen are at initiation and before outside zone 2. That is not an official decel zone. Drivers should be on throttle there. So I'm already hearing a judge saying, can we get that again, right? And we did see Sorensen kind of start the smoke line starting to dissipate a little bit. And that may be what the judges are wanting to look at.
As we take a look here, there's the momentum zones. And that's basically, you know, decel momentum zones where you're going to kind of lift real quickly going into the outside zone 1. Then going in from outside zone 1 to 2, middle line going into outside 2. You are going to lift. You're going to see a break in the smoke trail, slowing it down. And Ryan, you're pointing here on the map. Nobody can see that, but you're claiming that Brandon Sorensen was slowing down a little earlier than as prescribed?
That's where the collision happened, right? So drivers should be on throttle there. To simplify it, if Rome was on throttle and we're not seeing any kind of punctuation in his smoke line, but we are seeing that from Brandon, then Brandon should not be doing that there, is a simple way to put it, right? If we're just looking at it technically. So I think that's what the judges are wanting to look at.
All right, and here is the replay. Let's take a look. And Ryan, as you talked about momentum, speed, watch the smoke trail of Brandon Sorensen. That back left.
See, it starts to fade.
I need to see the other side there because
watch, look at Rome's, the thickness of Rome's.
Well, I mean, that angle, it wasn't completely like blatantly apparent because they're kind of merging the smoke trails, but I'd like to see it again.
Here's a good one.
Here's a good angle.
So watch Rome and watch Brandon. See that? To me, it looks like that there was a decrease in speed based on the smoke line kind of dissipating. But we'll see what happens. They do need to give fault here because that was a collision.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go as all right, here we go. So it looks like both of the vehicles are operable, Ryan. There will be somebody that does get deemed contact.
Yeah, so just to explain this a little bit further, the reason why these guys are getting iced on the line here is because we don't know, we haven't heard from their spotters whether or not their cars are operable. We just got word that they are operable, but we also know behind the scenes who's at fault.
Right. All right, here we go as Rome Charpentier will now lead. Brandon Sorensen will give chase. Let's see how Rome handles this, and Brandon goes hard. Looks like, oh man, we have an absolute grudge match right now as Rome gets knocked. He drops to a lower line. Brandon Sorensen now coming in on that second outside zone, that 2-on-2 performance. BMW now coming, chasing down the garagistic E36. So old versus new. Rome a little bit of years above the teenager that is Brandon Sorensen.
The really interesting thing about this particular circumstance is that because Rome was operable and he didn't ask to fix his vehicle, he didn't get to hear who was at fault, and we know who's at fault. And so he's basically running at 100% here. Had he known some information, he may have changed that dynamic from a strategic standpoint. But let's take a look at the run itself, and then let's go to the first run. You see a little tap there by Sorensen. You can see some wavering there from Rome as he comes down off the bank. Now transitioning into this second outside zone. Rome picks up outside zone 2 about halfway through. Sorensen trying to be aggressive here, close the gap on this final outside zone, but Rome kind of holding him off, but he goes a little bit off course as Sorensen follows him. Now, I believe from what we know behind the scenes, this second run is going to be all for naught for the most part. It's really going to come down to that first run because we have an incomplete. We have a collision. The run was shut down because of the collision. So that's really where I think
we didn't see it run in its entirety. As you say, behind the scenes, we know who was at fault. And I guess you could say it now since we're completed 2 runs.
Yeah, the judges have put Brandon Sorensen at fault. So that would be an incomplete for the first run, and that means Rome would have to incomplete on the second run. Here we go.
So looks like with the outcome of that first run, Brandon Sorensen with a deficit. Rome didn't have the most ideal line, but we're going to throw it top 16. He will do battle against Frederick Osbo, who was our number 2 qualifier, who got that bye run. Now, Yves Meyer, he did go into the wall earlier. That's why he doesn't have that front right corner. He was chasing down Essa in practice and took it hard to the wall. But I'll tell you what, Kyle Mohan, he is out for blood. His second qualifying run was definitely aggressive, and he gets aggressive, but loses a lot of ground with that angle. Now Yves Meyer continues on through the course. Yves Meyer now coming into that second outside zone, leads Kyle Mohan, hits it and quits it. A large correction there from, unfortunately, Kyle Mohan, as Yves Meyer fills that final outside zone, does punt that cone out of the way, but it's all about tire placement and not going off course, Ryan.
Well, Mohan's got to find a way to put himself back in the fight here after a really aggressive approach on his initiation, trying to get in the pocket right here, diving forward against Meyer. He falls back to an incredible degree, and you can see Meyer is still high up on the bank. He's not running away in the lead position. Look, he's filling that zone completely. Very few mistakes. And with that mistake by Mohan, he's kind of left playing catch up here. And so he's not that much of a factor in the chase position. That's going to put Meyer in a really favorable position on his chase run, knowing what he needs to do to get the win here. Still have 50% of the battle left to go, but Yves right now overall is in the dominant position.
And this has got to be a little bit of sigh of relief. I mean, the battle isn't over, excuse me, but he did go hard to the wall, man. So that's got to be a level of comfort for him. He is chasing down Kyle Mohan here on the second half of this battle. KMR 999, the KMR 99 as the Mazda tricks. RX-8 initiates, and looks like Yves Meyer, he goes to attack but has to back off as Kyle Mohan. All the Rotary fans definitely cheering him on to that second outside zone. And then now into that third outside zone. Looks like Kyle putting together a solid run out front. Yves Meyer doesn't know exactly how to handle it. So let's take a look at this again, Ryan. Like you said, just we're going through it so quick. I feel like I'm talking so fast. Give me the 10, 20, 25, 25. Give me the Rotary. Give me the gentleman from Switzerland. Let's walk through it again.
Yeah, I think Yves Meyer here was flirting with a one more time for the entirety of the first bank, and he didn't really need to strategically. He kind of dives in, and then look at how far down the bank he is, and with lacking of angle, no real smoke line, he's just trying to like get back in the fight here, and that put him in a similar position to how Kyle was on that section of the course as well. Now, on the third and final outside zone, he finally gets right back where he needs to be. He's keeping the pressure on Kyle. Kyle in his lead kind of goes off course there. So that may be enough to still tilt it in the favor of Meyer, but I think, you know, Meyer in his approach here could have played it much more conservatively, not been super aggressive on initiation, kind of closed the door halfway through the bank, and it would have been a much more convincing win. Now, in this case, the judges are going to the side-by-side, which basically means I need another look. I want to see how these guys perform side-by-side in our BC Racing coilover side-by-side view to figure out whether or not there is somebody that has a clear win here.
Yeah, you can see Yves Meyer on the left leading quite a bit of distance from Yves and Kyle Mohan. You can see him taking that shallower line and then finally barely just dipping that back right toe into that outside zone. You know, neither run was ideal, less than ideal, but I mean, is the needle going either way for you? Is it advantage or a victory at this point?
I think there could be at least a very, very minor argument for one driver. Just in a certain area of the course, comparatively, he did better pretty clearly. But both chase runs suffered from equal mistakes in a good chunk of the overall course. So,
all right, let's see if your hunch is right, Ryan. Slide him left for Yves Meyer, right for Kyle Mohan, and there goes Chris Ewell, Ryan Lontaine, and Brian Egger. It's unanimous. Yves Meyer gets the win. Ryan Lontaine, if we could, battles, and if you had a fifth, that would be Essa, but he gets that bye run. We won't be seeing him run till the 16. All right, Alex Robbins will lead that Facetto 350Z, and of course, Rad Dan going for it. Ryan, you were really enamored by his run yesterday. Looks like he goes for it, but has to back down this. Whoa, weird angle there from Alec Robbins. and that really threw him off, but allowed Dan Burkett to definitely gain some ground there. Ryan, that was very difficult for Dan Burkett to adjust and adapt to that flick and that transition. Let's take another look at this battle.
Robbins, in my estimation, starts off actually really strong here. I mean, look at that snap right into mid-high line on the bank. Dan goes down the bank and really gives some room here to Robbins, but Robbins starts off with a bit too much angle on that transition, too quick of a transition and too early, and it looks like he is not able to fill outside zone 2. That gives Dan an opportunity to kind of attack here, and look, he starts keeping the pressure on and coming back in this battle where he didn't really have that great of a chase run on the big bank.
Yeah, it was weird because Alec put more angle into the car at the end of that outside zone.
And unfortunately, he didn't have enough momentum with that quick of a transition to get into outside zone 2, which kind of left the door open for Dan to say, all right, cool, you're closer to me now, let me follow you.
Thanks for the mistake. That is a massive mistake there. So he's really going to need to twist the screws here on Dan Burkett. And it looks like we have a strike here, a false start here from Dan Burkett in that lead position. Remember, the chase vehicle can leave before all the lights extinguish. That is a starting light. Matt Sopa, our starter, on the line, will hit it. And again, they'll illuminate, and when they extinguish, that is when they are good to go. All right, Rad Dan Burkett, Rad Industries, Gear Wrench, GT Radio, Toyota Supra will be chased down by the Facetto, Koenig Wheels, Nissan 350Z from Minnesota. Dan Burkett initiates. Let's see if he can harness some of that energy he had last night in the wet. Dan Burkett initiates. He does drop down. He works it back up. Alec Robbins quite a bit of distance back there. Now a nasty transition by Dan Burkett coming to that second outside zone, really filling it. Alec Robbins taking that shallow line once again. In the chase, that is very, very apparent that he just does not have that dial. Dan Burkett, he is really off track there, but I think, Ryan, I have to assume that, I know, again, talking about it yesterday, go ahead, elaborate about the run, and I want to talk about that third outside zone.
I know the judges just, don't really like having to deal with a plethora of mistakes and trying to figure out which driver made the least amount of mistakes. It's always nice when it's a really tight, concise battle, but you can see Robbins, for some reason, is struggling here in the chase. Same kind of situation here. Comes way on the inside in his chase run, and even though Dan went a little bit wide here, Robbins is not really much of a factor in the chase at all. And right here, it looks like he may have almost spun before the final section of outside zone 3. And check it out, results in quickly.
So slide him left for Robbins, right for Dan Burkett, and the Rad one. Rad Dan Burkett gets the win and moves on as Rad Industries Gear Wrench Toyota Supra. And before we move on to our next battle, remember, Michael Essa gets a good little cat, and again, he's having a good time. So congratulations to him, first ever top 16. Jonathan Hurst going against the reigning defending champion, two-time champ, as this will be a restart here for the Cash Racing G37. And Ron Gittin Jr. will chase him on hack one. There we go, as the G37 and the Ford Mustang of Von Gittin Jr., the Monster Energy Nitto Tire Ford Performance Mustang RTR Spec 5D.
Should we explain that, or you think everybody knows restarts?
Please, no, please.
So restarts can happen if the lead driver jumps the light, leaves early, or knocks over one of those cones. They do it 3 times in a row. It's, get out of here.
Yep. It's the only stick and ball basically scenario, a reference that we have here in drifting. So you can see the lights there extinguish. Now you can leave the start line. Jonathan Hurst, clean start. Here we go. Let's see how the G37 handles that Mustang in the rear view mirror. The chrome nose diving in. Jonathan Hurst not exactly the highest on the bank there, midline, the proper line, allowing Von Gittin Jr. to gain some proximity. Hurst throws it in. Looks like he took kind of an A to B and then bones out of that second outside zone and then into that third outside zone. Ryan, I want to talk about that third outside zone. Those white lines, the multiple white lines, they are getting ran over quite a bit. And I know the drivers were talking about how difficult it is even to see that third outside zone.
Yes, absolutely. And from above, you can kind of see that the latter part of the zone is actually still painted pretty well. But as we get a good look at the battle here on the first run, You can see Vaughn kind of wanted to try to close the door halfway through the bank, but Jonathan Hurst didn't quite let him there. Hurst comes out of outside zone 2 quite a bit early. And as we get into this outside zone here, Vaughn is now putting pressure on the lead driver, but you can see Hurst is going way wide there on that final section. Let's remember, Jonathan Hurst is no driver to look past at all. He has looked strong on many occasions this year so far, and he definitely needs to keep the performance up to try to get a win against this amazing rookie driver.
Yeah, and as Vaughn Gittin Jr. gets prepared, he's having a party at 6:15 here in the pits at the Fun Haver Tour, so go join him. Brought to you by Type S and the Fun Haver Tour. Vaughn Gittin Jr., Chelsea Denofa, and Vaughn Gittin Jr. now out front. Like I said, the defending champion in that 4 doubleheader season, and Vaughn with the clean air, the chrome nose, shining in the sun. Quite a contrast from yesterday to today. Brings that second outside zone. Jonathan Hurst, shots fired, literally out of his hood, taking that shallower line. But Vaughn Gittin Jr. filling all that third and final outside zone. Unfortunately, Jonathan Hurst being dealt a very monstrous, literally and figuratively, battle here against Vaughn Gittin Jr.
Wow. Well, this is definitely going to
okay?
be one that the judges are going to be scrutinizing very closely. Let's get a good look at it here as we take a look. This is the shot that the program room has been using for side-by-sides. Hurst, you can see way down the bank there, then speeding up to try to catch up to Vaughn Gittin Jr. Vaughn coming off outside zone 1, midline. That's definitely what the judges want to see, but Hurst tucking up on the inside, following very closely there to outside zone 2. Really good job by both drivers there. Hurst with the high point, but then he doesn't capitalize on it. He falls back. He does not fill outside zone 3 at the beginning, and he kind of lets Vaughn get away. Vaughn came off that zone a little bit early there, but outside of that, did really well in that zone overall.
Yeah, some great execution there from Vaughn Gittin Jr. Unfortunately, Hurst, like I said, just that's a big battle. It's a big arm wrestling match here as Vaughn Gittin Jr. will get the win. Jonathan Hurst in that Cash Racing G37. We'll see you in St. Louis.
Huge opportunity to take out a foe.
Yeah, Forsberg came in 10th in points into this round of competition. Odi Bakchis currently sits there in second, and right now, Odi Bakchis high on the bank. Chris Forsberg a few vehicles back from Odi Bakchis. Now transition that second outside zone. He knows he needs to apply the pressure, because I know Odi definitely will. Oh, and Chris Forsberg transitions. Look at Odi. Way off course, both of them on either side of this course and this track and the line. Oh, Forsberg shuts it down before the finish line. That will be an unfortunate incomplete there for Forsberg regarding this. Let's take a look at it again here, Ryan.
I don't want to say that we were building to that, but it did not look like the standard Chris Forsberg that we've seen in the past. Watch on the initiation right here. He's going to come a little unstuck. He taps the wall. Now he's kind of wavering a little bit here. He's falling back. He's not putting the pressure on Odi. And my eyes were really kind of fixated on Chris mostly in this battle, because right here as he transitioned, he came on a tighter line. And then as we get to this final section, watch, he's going to shut it down right here. Now that is a for sure incomplete, right? Odi knows that. His spotter knows that. He's at a huge advantage now going into the second half of this run.
And it will be noted that, you know, Odi did have 2 tires off on either side. Like you were looking at Chris, if you looked at Odi, his wasn't an ideal run either, but straightening out, that's a massive,
yeah,
massive
he
mistake.
definitely had 2 tires off at the beginning of outside zone 3, and that would have been a mistake. But in relation to even the mistakes up to that point, it was going to be minimal.
Right.
Once you get the incomplete, big problem.
I was talking about Odi, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, so both of them having obviously lackluster runs. Now Chris Forsberg, I have a feeling he's just absolutely going to go for it, but Odi has really become one of the best chase drivers. Just his awareness of the transitions have been really key. You wonder if he's going to apply the pressure or just kind of play it safe here. Pedaling back, does need to be an active run as Chris slams down. He's doing exactly what he needs to do. That front right tire actually even coming to a stop. Now to that third and final outside zone. Ryan, that's a great lead run from Forsberg. Unfortunately, with that mistake, and Odi running a decent, you know, chase run. I think a safe, measured chase run. That's the needle's going to go the way of Odi Bakchis.
Yeah, we would have need to see an incomplete for Odi Bakchis in order to force a one more time here, and we just don't see that. And yet again, the Gremlins strike control over the 3-time champion and this vehicle just not able to kind of fix what they need to fix and have it be reliable and dependable in the moments that matter. In New Jersey, it was all the way into the finals, and so you could say that that was you know, if it's going to happen there, you want it to happen in the finals. In 32, it's just a really, really tough break.
And there it is. Slide him left for Odie, slide him right for Chris Forsberg, and Odie Bakchis will get the win. Unfortunately for Chris Forsberg, and we have one more battle left. This should be a good one. But
tippy toes in the rain yesterday, just trying to make it around the track without flying off the end. And this is going to be interesting.
Here we go. Taylor Hull out front, palm cams next to tire. Cadillac ATSV, Masuyama, the Buy Now Japan S15, throws it in right to the side of Taylor Hull. Taylor Hull keeps it high and tight. Nice job by Taylor Hull. The boy from Georgia, as Masuyama struggles to get high on the bank and even have angle. Now coming to that second outside zone. Taylor Hull needs to run his own line in order to continue on even in the top 16. Looks like he struggles on the transition into that last outside zone. A lot of grip has got to be laid down with that new surface, all the rubber. So, Dylan, your quick assessment. It's not easy, is it?
Man, I don't know. You guys' job is really tough. This is crazy. So first thing that I noticed was Masuyama just having that straighten on the bank. You can't deny that that happened. Hull had a really good run in the lead. He's dragging his bumper on the wall there a little bit. But yeah, there it is with that straighten a little bit with Masuyama. Hull comes off the bank, looking sick. Nice transfer, clearing that zone. But then watch how he transfers a little bit early right here. Watch, it goes snap. And then he ends up a little bit shallow off that outside zone, but at the end of the day, I really don't think that's as bad as that straight from Masuyama.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the two wheels. So, are you scared? You're driving a Kawasaki Ninja ZH2. You're trying to go 200 miles per hour. The bike is limited at 175, so you got to throw some more HPs at it.
Yep, throw some more HPs at it. And the biggest thing that we have to consider is that this thing is going to be on a very, very loose surface, and it's a flying mile. Don't forget. So it's your average speed over 1 mile of racing, essentially. So average speed over 1 mile.
And you're doing this the day after St. Louis. So you're leaving FD St. Louis, Worldwide Technology Raceway, and you're going to which exact salt flats?
This is going to be the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah.
Legendary. Well, dude, I wish you the best of luck. And again, we'll get back to that in a moment. Masuyama here now initiates, and where's Taylor Hull? Taylor Hull, quite a few vehicles back. You got to think, though, Masuyama does have that major straightening. I would consider that an incomplete compared to Taylor Hull. I don't consider this an inactive chase, but as long as he keeps it clean, keeps it sideways, doesn't go completely off course, straighten out, make some corrections. Where are you at? Masuyama, Taylor Hull, crossing the finish line. Dylan, Masuyama had that major mistake on the first one. Yeah, Taylor Hull, he's back there quite a bit, but I think the needle's going to go his way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that bank, he definitely could have been a little bit closer, but I get it, man. That's a tough spot to be close on. If you miss that initiation up just the teeniest little bit, like it's that you're just playing catch-up at that point. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be enough to overturn the judge's rule against that straight on the bank.
Yeah, to offset that, you need to do something equal or greater than, and Taylor Hull did not do that in that scenario. So Taylor Hull, you saw him, you know, I think he was probably going to play it safe. He's like, oh man, Masuyama, he's got some go juice. So he just pieced out from him, it seemed like, in that S15. But here's our BC Racing graphics, the side-by-side, the official suspension of Formula Drift, go for gold. While we take a look at this in the judges' review, how hard is it going to be 200 on the flats? Like, is this realistic? Is it feasible? What are some people who you like to think? I mean, obviously Permatex, but is it realistic? You going to hit this 200 mile per hour?
I think it's realistic. The biggest thing that we're going to have to battle is the aerodynamics of the motorcycle. Yes, a motorcycle, you can get one that will do 200 from the factory, but you have to remember that this is going to be an extremely, extremely loose surface. Picture it like sand.
Yeah. All right, here it is. Taylor Hull gets the victory. Hull will advance on. He'll be going against